We can rise to the I put leaving strip off would be nice. Seems. Thank you.
No, you don't want to.
What are you looking at? Technical difficulties. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, roll call. We have all 5 members of the council here at this time. Next item on the agenda is consider approving the minutes held from March 26th. I make a motion, we approve those minutes. Motion to make, second by Bob. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Next up on the is, George, would you like to speak tonight?
Yes, I would think it
Yes, Mr. George Bailey, please.
was short and sweet, just basically, I believe that Oakland should be following all federal executive orders handed down from our from the same way that we did when Janet Mills made all kinds of executive orders during COVID. Same way Joe Biden did during COVID. And I follow every one of the executive orders. As a town of Oakland, also follow every one of President Trump's executive orders. Whenever applicable to the town.
We have what?
Whenever applicable to the town.
Any discussions, any comments, any questions? Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Next item up on the agenda is health officer update, please.
Yeah, so our health officer stepped down, Tony Widow. So we need to reappoint or appoint a new health officer. I've spoke with Dave Coughlin, Nate Smart, our code enforcement officer, pretty much goes and sees these buildings with code issues and health issues and stuff. There's a little bit of training that he would need to do to get certified. I don't know if you want to appoint someone else. It just makes sense. I know Dave Savage, when he was our code officer, he was also the health officer. And then when Dave left, we gave it to Tony. Tony no longer wants to do it, so. You know, I'm thinking it needs to go back to the code office, but it's your decision as an appointment, so.
Comment.
I'm on the council and I'd ask for it.
Clear.
He was volunteered, so.
Voluntold.
I make a motion that we make Nate help out.
Right,
How much training is it gonna take, Nate, do you know?
There's like a 4 to 6 hour training to get certified, then there's an interview, they call you in there. Over you for 1 more. So. I don't think it entails too much, and it takes a day. Yeah.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second? Second by Dave, all in favor? Thank you for volunteering. It's like joining the military. Training guy in the field looks.
That's me.
yeah.
So I would like to say it's that time of year we start thinking about community gardens, but that few inches of snow we had this morning makes me think otherwise. But it is around that time when we normally start to think about community gardens, so I just kind of want to update the town on what I've been working on with the community gardens for this year. In the past, we've rented out the community gardens to townsfolk for a $25 fee, and they get their own little plot. And so I had a citizen reach out to me about wanting to see what she could do to help improve our community gardens and get more involved. She was willing to donate, was willing to donate seedlings for half price for what they normally are. She's interested in becoming like an instructor for classes and doing classes for communities. I also last year had an email from Snap Ed. They're based out of Waterville, but they do a lot of community garden work, and they're trying to branch out to other towns. So I pulled the person from Snap Ed and the person that was interested in being an instructor together to kind of have a meeting, discuss what we could do and what our options are. We talked about how in the past couple of years we've had really low participation in renting out our garden beds. And so we're just gonna talk about that. All in all, we came to a decision that we'd like to do classes this year, so do classes on the gardens instead of renting them out for folks. So we do classes for them, and talking about different things about community gardens, different things about gardening to help out our citizens in the town. Classes will plan to be weekly and Saturdays. Right now, they're looking at starting May 31st to start going through the gardens, cultivating them and getting them ready to go for planting seedlings. And the following Saturday, the 7th, would be when they're starting to plant or looking to plant their seedlings. Then after that, they continue doing classes every Saturday, checking in on the plants, watering them, different things like that. She's still a person not looking and instructing, is still working on what she wants to do. And she'll give me more details when she's ready to get that, but she hasn't gone through with it yet. And then in the future, towards the end, when we're looking at harvesting some of those, she's looking at doing different opportunities to talk about making salsa, talking about canning things, also working on pickling, because we're gonna grow cucumbers. As mentioned before, seedlings are going to be half price from the instructor, so we're giving them at a cheaper deal than what they normally are. We would pay half, and then we are also working with the Healthy Northern Kennebec Food Council to cover the other half, so we wouldn't pay the full price out of our town budget and my town budget. We just pay half, and we're working with this council. As of right now, what our instructors look to do, planting up there, it's quite a lengthy list, so I'll be quick with it. 12 cabbage, 6 broccoli, 6 cauliflower, 12 sweet pepper mix, 12 hot pepper mix, 6 zucchini, 4 summer squash, 12 chives, 6 peas, 6 beans, 6 watermelon, 8 cucumbers, 4 sage, 8 cilantro, 9 dill, oregano, 6 oregano, 6 lemon balm, 12 celery, 10 basil, spinach, beets, radishes, turnip, lettuce, carrots, 2 geranium, 3 borage, and then also 4 types of tomatoes, 3 plants for each of those tomatoes. So that's what she's looking to do and give to us. She's also working to build a couple of raised beds that will be for the tomato plants. Because the beds we have there right now aren't really great to grow tomato plants, so she's gonna work on building a couple of raised beds. And then the food will be used at different capacities of the town. Obviously, one thing we're looking at is looking at the food pantry and helping out the food pantry. But on top of that, we'd use it to do those other activities that she talked about with canning, pickling, doing salsa and different activities like that. We're still talking with her and seeing what other things we can do in the community to help out. But it's a big part of also doing this way. And then after teaching and giving lessons this year, the hope is that there'll be more interest in the community gardens for future years. So we can bring it back to renting those spaces out for townsfolk. And they can get more interested and start to do different things. And hopefully it grows a little bit more for interest in the town. So I just wanted to update everybody. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any questions.
Do you have any spots rented out yet?
So we're not gonna rent out the spots this year. I haven't posted about it. And because we're running these classes to try to gain more interest. I think as of last year, I think we had 2 lots that were rented out. And we have 6 beds up there, 7, I believe, actually is another tall bed that we have. So there was not really a lot of plots that were rented out, so we figured this would be a really good route to start gaining more interest of the public and getting them more involved in community gardens.
Where are they located at?
They're located up at the Overlook.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's 3 raised beds that are lower to the ground and then a taller raised bed that's right next to it. So there's 7 altogether, and then we'll add 2 more in for tomato plants for this year.
And you'll do an announcement in the flyer.
Yes, yeah. So once we get all the information together, we'll put a flyer out and we'll use our notification system to get out to townsfolk as well to let them know what the plan is gonna be. I'm not sure about charging for the classes yet or how much we would charge. I don't wanna charge folks a lot. You know, economic times that we're in, sometimes we don't really wanna spend a lot of money on doing different activities, so I'm not trying to charge or do a lot. It's more so meant to be informative and help out townsfolk as much as possible.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, problem.
Thank you.
Next item up is Mr. Coughlin. Chief Coughlin has a letter of support request. Chief?
Sure, I have, Dan Mayotte and Sarah Batiste here from representing, Farm Center in Waterville. They're looking at upgrading the communications. This communication center with a congressional for application and asked for our support to have them here to talk about the project and answer any questions that you may have. But I'll let them talk about it.
I'm happy to speak, sir. Well, you got guys, and, I'm serving as a firefighter, I'm back for the city of Waterville, reserve dispatching and, radios are for the city, so. All the technical stuff kind of falls to me, I'm leading the charge on a request to Senator Collins' office to replace basically infrastructure for the city of Waterville, the towns that they were supported by the comp center. And then working with the city of Augusta as well. A few of you, Chief Murder, Mr. Perkins, you've done law enforcement in the past, the IMC CAD system that you guys use that came out in the eighties is still there, so it's launched in 1986. The communication center of both Waterville and Augusta are using that. It's severely outdated. It needs to be replaced basically to new technology. So we're looking at replacing the computer aided dispatch system. That is cost in itself is over $500,000. Just for that. We're doing a regional approach to it because it actually saved us about $200,000 versus doing it independently. It allows for interoperability, backup, and all kinds of stuff. The second phase of what we're doing, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, you guys worked with water to become a PSAP, a public safety answering point, because Merced was no longer able to answer 911. With that, Waterville, as of this week, became the 12th busiest PSAP in the state, which is pretty huge for 9 communities. They're going through some growing pains. They're eligible now for a 4th 911 position, for overflow, for training, for backup, all this stuff. They need that 4th position to answer 911. The state has some regulations on how you can place them and how you can get them. The biggest reason being is that they want a radio console at the same site as a 911 answering point. The system that we have in place in the city of Waterville is 20 years old. You can't even find parts on eBay, and we're running into issues of power failures and different things for the radio device. So we can't physically add that 4th console. Be able to expand to put that 4th 911 position. Like I said, they're not looking to hire anybody, but if Sarah works during the day and if the phones are ringing off hook, she has the ability to come out of the office and answer. It allows for a position for somebody to train. And then they do storm coverage and things where they add a 4th. December 18th storm a couple years ago, they had 5. Answering thousands of calls. That's what we're looking to do. With that infrastructure and rebuilding all the radio network and installing those new computers, another $1 million to do all that infrastructure. We're at the point where it's looking at more and more critical failure. We need to fix this. So we don't want to approach the individual communities because we're all tight. Nobody has came approach you and said, hey, we're requesting $1.7 million. You would point to that or show it. So one of the options was the congressional delegated spending. I know the politics of Washington are what they are at the moment and may not even get at least have to try. So we're just looking for a letter of support that the community of Oakland, both fire and the council here supports our effort to request those funds to rebuild the infrastructure here to serve you guys for.
Do you need one letter or 3 separate?
Honestly, I would love to submit 100 letters to her. As of this morning, or this afternoon, I'm at 16. I haven't seen anything from the city of Augusta with the Augusta police chief's working, waiting on one fire chief. Hoping they'll get to it this weekend.
Politics, man.
So, I mean, my goal, I think a realistic goal is to send 50 in is not unreasonable. We're not allowed to send form letters. We've met with their office, their representatives have been fantastic when they come up with it, but they want individual heartfelt letters from the community. Senator Collins herself sits and reads all that stuff. She makes any decisions. I want to put together the best product forward, and the bigger buy-in from the community that we take care of is the best.
Do you have call volume numbers that Kelly could use to put in our letter?
We certainly can. I
I
could rattle some off now if you'd like, or I think I've got to memorize. Sarah might be able to.
I don't mean.
So
in every letter, I think.
for example, last year, the last fiscal year, the average 50.5 911 calls a day to that center. Some days were more, some days were less, and they're up to 100, almost 150,000 business calls so far. Since they started tracking the last couple of years. So that phone in that rings, that doesn't include any of the radio, that's good. Oh. City of Augusta, they did a little over 85,000 calls for service last year, including fire, EMS, and police. It's a lot, they're busy. You know, Waterville runs 2 dispatchers 24/7 with one during, a third one during peak hours, so. There's other communication centers out there that are doing the same call volume with twice the staff. Sarah and her crew are doing amazing work, so.
I've got a quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned that Susan would probably be more impressed if she had like a bunch of heartfelt letters or requests to have that funding provided. I mean, sending in letters from council members and first responders and stuff is awesome. I bet she'd probably pay a lot more attention to it because then that would also mean votes if she actually got letters from citizens. Is there any way of doing that where maybe each town, if it was cost effective, find a way to do a mass mailing of all their residences and have them maybe send back to the basic form?
We had discussed this just this last week. The problem is the window of the application. I got an email on basically April 1st in the morning saying, hey, we're open. It closes April 15th. We were hoping for like a 30-day window. We were just end of March, our goal was to finish all of our budgeting, get all our numbers right, so that when we came up talking to people, that we had numbers, they were sharp, heads were sharp, knew what we're targeting. So we basically just got it done, the window open, and you know, I'm asking for letters to be in by the 12th, so that it gives me 2 days to process all the letters and put the packet together and ship it to her office so that things look amazing. Unfortunately, the window for all this was really short this year. And then we're also competing with everybody that got awards for 2025 because they're involved with the current administration and everything that happened pulled out. So they're also going to be reapplied. There's a very large pool of people applying or groups or communities applying. I have no idea how this is all going to hire them. All this effort and time may just go to, I'm sorry. And I think we know.
I have 2 questions. One, what's the plan if you get no funding?
We were actually made aware of another possible grant yesterday that we might be able to reach out for. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but the grant administrator for the city of Waterville said that she could qualify for it. So that's gonna be something that we're gonna be looking into. The other thing is, you know, I don't have a good answer for you. This stuff needs to be done. Brain, way to make it happen and not affect communities, but at some point, you know, the community have to chip in part. You know, I'm the community skill budgets of my own town, and I know how stressful it is when everybody comes in and asks for money. I think we have to think about the bigger picture over the next couple of years as to what our goal is. I'm not here presenting that tonight. That would be something that Chief Bonnie and Sarah would come in and do. I'm here as a medical.
The other question I have is why just Senator Collins' office?
I sent messages out to a couple of the other offices that represent the greater Waterville area, and Senator Collins' office is the one that responded back. Within the less than 24 hours of me sending that, they're coming in email. They were on the phone with me and super excited and scheduled a meeting with us to come up with this phone immediately. They were very responsive. They've been fantastic through the whole process. They've met with us twice so far. Like I said, I didn't get any responses back from the other elected individuals.
And is your pot of money that you're going for the same pot of money that Delta's going for?
Not necessarily. So the way congressional delegated spending works and how it was explained to me is that Senator Collins is going to review different things that she feels is worthy to her constituents. And so, for example, I know Delta ambulances or even Belgrade, they're applying for a station. Delta's requested a couple ambulances for requested communication.
what they do is they look at these and they look at where it fits into the federal government. So, Homeland Security, Homeland Security may fit the city of Waterville and the communications center pretty fast. So as they create the budget for the federal spending, Senator Collins is gonna request that they put $1.7 million into the Homeland Security budget that's assigned to just the city of Waterville and Augusta for this project. So as the budget goes through, it doesn't work like a grant, it works like this. So the second that the budget goes through and the president signs at the budget, then that funding is there within Homeland Security within their budget, and then they issue the money to the region up here. So, for example, I don't know where Delta's money would go, but it may go into a fee. So then she would pull out of that
Yeah.
budget for a fee.
Thank you. I just was wondering where they were the same town essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. So, I reached out to a bunch of people. I sent 100 emails out asking for signatures days ago. And, Thomas College is looking for funding to help with mental health for their students. So, they immediately responded saying, we're reaching out for the same thing. Health is reaching out, Belgrade's reaching out. And it's, like I said, there's a handful of other people that says, yes, we're applying for stuff too, but DOT is applying for stuff, so the bridge needs to be replaced. They're reaching out to Senator Collins for a portion of, that bridge getting replaced, so. They're gonna be inundated after April 15th with a whole bunch of requests, and then their staff will figure it out. It goes from there. I hate to ask how many they're gonna get, but I think everybody will, so.
Yeah, it is a lot.
One more quick question, I don't know if you've done the math on it, but if you can't get any grants to complete this project. You said there's how many towns that are actually involved in the irrigation system that you're talking about upgrading?
It depends on which part of the line, 11 total, all Augusta, then it's 9 communities in northern Canada.
Well, basically, in order to get the system so it's totally up, it's not the way it should be, it's what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, that is there.
So how many towns would be involved in that?
Correct. I would believe, in some capacity, all the towns, for instance, China, example, they use water communications for fire and rescue dispatch and 911 handling. The sheriff's office and state police handle that, so we have to come up with an algorithm that they pay for the portion that they're using of the system. Where the town of Oakland does 911, they do police, and they do fire rescue. So they use a little bit more of the system than. So there's a lot of math and algorithm, and a whole other thing, like I want to be able to figure it all.
I'm just trying to figure out what a ballpark would be as far as financially, if you're not able to get any grants at all. How much, like a town, how much, the town of Oakland would actually be on the hook for that, right?
No, we're certainly trying to put something together. We could also break down this project and do it in phase two, so it's not all one big lump sum. I mean, the CAD, the computer aided dispatch system that we are currently using still works. I don't know what its end of life is going to be. They've only got like one that kind of advanced company wide. So what he or she retires, is there gonna be anybody else? Because it's programming technology that even the new kids coming out of school don't know how to do. It's C++. So if guys are old and into computers. That was MS-DOS, that type of programming. That's where we're at. We're looking at us.
Look at all of us.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, and it's just to understand the foundation of the system where you can speak up. 2019, the city of Augusta was hacked, and their CAD server was held for ransom for a week. I don't know if you're part of that. Yeah, that shuts down everything. It not only does it shut down the dispatchers, anything that the courts need paperwork for, any of the report, I mean, it shuts down. So.
How much of a risk are we at, as far as dispatch not being able to communicate at all?
So the equipment is 20 years old, and I'll use China as an example. Their radio that we transmit from is also 20 years old. The power supply for it died. It no longer fast, and it just said, they don't make parts for that radio. So in order to replace it, we're talking $3,000 or $4,000 to replace it. You've since found the power supply, right past the one that built into it, made it work. That's not a long-term solution to what we're trying to do. We don't want to patch these things together. That's that radio, $4,000 or $5,000. Understandably, that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of it. There are 20 channels. in our communications center. So when you multiply that by 20. Basically, way up. Yeah, so we're, like I said, we're looking to rebuild stuff. We want to make it so that if the town of Oakland, decides that, hey, we want to go to digital in 10 years. Right now, we can say this upgrade, everything is software upgradable, so as the technology changes in the radio world, we can update everything and keep moving forward.
What year did we leave Somerset and come to Waterville for our PSAT?
2023?
July.
23?
Yep.
Yeah. I thought it was longer ago than that.
And grant covers software too, correct?
Yes, sir.
So your IMC would go, the reason I'm mentioning, because I want the council to hear, this grant also covers Central Square. Right now, all the communities use IMC, and that's near the end of life. And our portion of Central Square, which is what all these police departments, the dance talk about, all the communities have to go to for interoperability. Our portion would be about $300,000. So this grant would cover that as well.
One more quick question, and I'll bug you.
No, it's fine. I'm here to answer questions.
My biggest concern would be one of these officers or one of yours or somebody else being out in the field and in a situation where they need to communicate back to dispatch and they're not able to. Be in any danger of that at all.
I mean, you guys can, there's dead areas in there. Dead areas, yeah.
Well, that's not good for you, that.
No, it's not ideal.
No, it's not even, I mean, it shouldn't even happen.
We have some redundancy built in this. So we can use other bases of communication.
Well, if you guys are, you guys find yourself in a bad situation, so it'd be no problem at all when you guys communicate.
That hasn't happened. That hasn't happened.
Well, I don't want that, you know.
The infrastructure that the town of Oakland owns here for both fire and police. So, yeah, they have a repeater that's on a tower very high in this community, and there's very few areas we can't even talk about for. But the problem that we have with radios is that 10, 12 years ago, the government changed how we can use radios, and they called it narrowband. Basically changed the wavelength of the radio, and it made it harder to do in out of field. So like little walls, metal structures and things like that, and call it's more, it's really problem in the city, especially downtown, it's all American. So right.
There's no danger of anybody being left out and not being able to communicate somehow, right? That's right.
At this time in the town of Oakland, I can say 99% accuracy that Oakland is. That's good. Is that you agree with that?
Yeah, the only issue we have with portables inside the, like the high school,
Yeah.
junior high, we have trouble transmitting, but it's fine. That's not an issue.
Other questions? Dan, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, old business. Kelly, you wanna update us on 9 Pleasant?
Yep, so last Monday we met with Don Ford's daughter. Showed us 9 Pleasant Street. We had Dana attend. We had code enforcement there, buildings and grounds, myself and Cheryl, the maintenance director. I think the building it's big. It's structurally questionable. We were able to go up in the attic and there was some structural leaks that came from the ceiling to the floor of the attic, then they were cut off. So it was interesting, to say the least. I think if there's a lot of rooms with a sink in every room, we're not sure what the foundation looks like. We couldn't get down there. Nate, you wanna pipe in a little?
Just standing back and looking at the roof line, you can see it's a bunch of sags and it goes with waves in it, which kind of tells you that it's not necessarily a truss system. So just trying to figure that out, not being able to get into the new section, you just don't know how that's structurally built, right? So, I mean, my suggestion as well as AJ Kane was to, if we wanted to move forward with this is to have somewhat of an engineer go in and kind of just look at the building to see how structurally sound it is. It is odd, like Kelly was saying, up in this section that we could get up into, there were some beams in the original building. Dana filled us in on what it was before and the history of the building. But what they did, they cut some of the old beams and kind of placed them onto a wall, which I don't know how, why, and when that was done, but I mean, it's definitely sound. I mean, I wouldn't say the building of today is a hazard by any means. I would say that retrofitting the building would take somewhat of an engineer or architect to sort of figure it all out. Moving forward, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole building was sort of built in three pieces, I think. There's the main section that the roof line runs perpendicular to the street. And then there's a huge L built onto it, lean-to built onto the right of it. Then there's a new part built with the roof line running parallel to the road, which is, I think, the third part by the Lord.
Yeah.
And the stuff like Kelly mentioned, there's plumbing all over the place, and we don't know if there's any prints for that plumbing, or you just gotta start digging through walls to find it. And I just think it would be a nightmare for the town. I think if we did own it, our best bet would be to get Jeff Hall and Mike Rosick all up there for about 3 days and then come back and see what we had left. But it's a lot of room. It's certainly way more room than we need, but it's all split up into very small little cubby holes, probably what? 8 by 10 rooms?
Yeah, they're tiny.
That's for exam rooms for a doctor. Wow. There's a lot of them. We could each have an office in one, but it just looks like it would be an awful nightmare for AJ to go in there and try to do a plumbing repair or something to find out where it fed from. The power panel was just packed with stuff. It looked like one power panel that was for the whole building, and it was just packed. It would have been a nightmare trying to follow the wiring.
Yeah.
I don't know. In my opinion, that it would be a nightmare for the town.
Yeah, I would say that some of those walls, that you know, the main corridor, the hallway, I would say those are supporting walls. AJ and I tried to figure that out, tried to poke our head up at the ceiling, but there was no areas to do that. You know, I don't know, I think if we were gonna move forward on that, the fire prevention would be into it as well. I guess be great to say that, someone a plan or inspection would be done by, you know, architect to see where we could put walls, and where we could remove walls. The floor is a wooden floor, so it's like it's a subfloor built over a slab, I would assume, so there is some kind of a chase in there. So you can get your pitch for your plumbing, obviously the plumbing works, so, the pitch has to be somewhat correct, but how to delete some of those sinks and how to, I don't know, it would be up to, it would just be somewhat of a drawing for inspection and
Yeah.
plans to be looked at.
Further discussion?
Yeah, quick question. Have they actually given a dollar figure on what they wanted for the building at all?
No, she was supposed to send me blueprints. Cost. What else?
Blueprints, lease, like somewhat more of a lease payment, what it would be to lease it, and then she was going to get. With Lindsay to see how much they would sell it for.
Right, and she hasn't returned any information.
So they're willing to go both options, at least we'll sell.
They don't wanna lease it, they don't wanna sell it, to be honest with you, but then sell it at the right price.
So if they lease it out, wouldn't they be responsible for the actual meters, building if they lease it out?
It all depends on how your contract's written, right? Yeah, there's buildings out there that are leased that. You pay for the maintenance and you pay for retro and you pay for everything else.
I think you're absolutely right about these things, you have somebody do that to see how structurally good the building is.
It's 50 years old too. You know, your building is older. And we wanna go from an old building to an old building when you know, we need to start setting Oakland up for the future to last another 50 years. You know, this building was built. Well, I don't even know how old the old building, the old fire station was. So 1950 something.
55 or 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, and the police station was even older than that.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, these buildings are gonna last another 50, 60 years, and we need to do the same thing, I think, for the town office. As we grow as a town, we have more services and.
We also are getting taxes. You look out, see what it was, if we're getting taxes on that building. If we bought it, it would be off the tax roll,
Right.
so we'd be having a loss there also.
No, I did not, I looked that up.
I would just say that it's a great thought. Bad idea. If you're actually gonna look at a building, it'd be down on Water Street, look at that office first.
Yeah.
And then I would still say that's a good thought, bad idea.
I was not able to, join you for the building, but I've done the building several times over the year. Conference, clothing store, Saluki owned it. From what I know about the building, the best use for the town of Oakland would be encourage him to lease it to somebody and make it a business or so.
I just wanted to provide an update, so we did go look at it, checking. There's a lot of work done. I think our original plan when the previous town manager was here was to have campus. And I think we should still keep that vision in mind.
Next up is Kelly would like to talk about the website.
I just had some questions about some broken links that are on the website, and I see there's been a number of corrections made on the website, because there were some outdated memberships and terms and stuff like that, so those have been done. That's what I wanted to know, is are we going to be fixing broken links and things like that to make sure that when people are accessing the website, they're accessing the information that they're looking for? Really all I wanted.
Manager's update.
So been working with Boyd and we're kind of looking at the flows of the sewer with the new areas in town that have been fixed. And flows are down, which is good. We've been working with Waterworks, which is that finance company, works with infrastructure. And can play with enough budget numbers, so to see about a rate increase and all that, we went over it last year. So Boyd would like to have a council workshop. Next month, before we start putting the budget together. To look at the possibility of a rate increase for sewer users. To see. It would be a presentation by Waterworks as well, but we can plot in the numbers. I think we'll have a small rate increase. We haven't increased since 2012. We wrote it down to not to have one last year. And I think we did go over budget, and we're gonna talk about this, but we did go over budget on the project. We ran into some culverts in that big one on Heath Street that we had to replace, that was like $30,000. So that was, otherwise we were gonna lose the road and replace it. So we tucked that into the funding as well. So we actually overspent a little. So I think having a rate increase next year, and Boyd wants to do a workshop with all the council to explain and go over it, and just have that night be about the presentation. So do it on a Wednesday, not a council night, or tag it onto a council night. What are your thoughts?
Anybody have what other? When it's on the agenda, if you have a busy night, then it would not be a good night to do it. For a
Right,
regular council meeting, but if it's a light night, that would probably be like, but one less night, we'd have to count on her
the
presence.
last second meeting day might be good.
Everything wanted a rate increase.
Yes,
You know, we wanted to wait and see some figures, I think, maybe Bob, you brought that out. We wanted to see some figures from the new sewer projects, how much flow we saved and. Before we made a decision on that.
Remind me of, Alpine Street, was that sewer or was that?
then water's gonna start soon. Yes, yeah,
On a bunch.
yeah, the water company's going in and digging it all up and they're gonna do their part.
Yeah, Water Street.
In
The
order.
part they were doing last fall was just for sewer, not for the water.
We couldn't coordinate it. Cause our sewer project was funded with ARP money, and we had to have it spent by December.
Okay, but they didn't complete that project.
Sewer.
They only went partway down Water Street from, partway down.
That was water.
Yeah, and they're starting Water Street, next week, should take 2 to 3 weeks to complete. And then after that, they're moving to South Alpine, and then that'll be approximately 6 weeks.
See, I thought when they were tearing apart South Alpine and they were coming down the water, I thought they were doing them both at the same time.
Would have been nice.
Yeah.
It would have been.
I think one's on one side, the road, one on the other, something like that. But no, I don't.
They all did that. It's done at good stage, because before.
Oh, yeah. That's why Jeff wanted to put in new pavement this year and we didn't put it
We
in.
put in 25 for shed, oh, cause he wanted to rebuild the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll look at the calendar and the agendas and see which meeting that would work.
One quick question, Kelly, so that last rate increase back, I think you said what, 2012? Wasn't that when they were actually connecting into Waterville sewage plant? Wasn't that supposed to help cover that?
No.
It was. What year did we do that? We had one piping down West Road and connected to.
That was a bond separate from everything else and.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
still paying on that. We got federal money. Some of it was loan, some of it was, free, you know,
USDA,
yeah.
yeah.
We got like a grant, we didn't have to pay back for a portion of it. Portion was loan that we have to pay back and we're still paying on that.
We're paying on it till 2040, $138,000 a year.
Has Waterville raised their rates for us dumping our sewer there at all since we first did it?
I don't think so, but I think that's one of the things Boyd's gonna talk about, is they're also looking at increase.
I know we've been dumping into Waterville for quite a while. I'm just kind of curious if they'd actually raise the rates on them again.
But the problem is we're putting a lot of clean water due to the inflow into our sewer system. That's why he wanted to get, Lower Oak Street done and the catch basins up there and Alpine Street is another bad one that we were putting spring runoff water through the sewer plant, paying so much a gallon for it.
Our clay
No, that's
pipes,
not good.
our clay pipes are full of holes, we gotta start replacing them as we can. But he did see the difference in the two areas he did attack last spring, so.
Once everything's all done on Water Street, I mean, I know probably Alpine is definitely not open to repave, but if the Water Street and State Road, the state would be repaving that once that's all been done with the piping and stuff.
I think so, I know we had had a conversation with the state, to do like a 90-10, if they would pay 90%, we would, town of Oakland would pay 10%. And our 10% could be the in-kind work of our public works or whatever, to rebuild that whole road and get the sidewalks upgrade and so that's probably a couple of years down the road, but we did have that conversation not too long ago with the state. So they're just so busy and stretched, like they could put it on their agenda, but it's probably 10 years down the road before they can get here.
When I've done on Goodwood Street was dead end and every time they flush lines down there, I spend days with it. basically groundwater for days. So it would be nice to have some new piping down there, a lot of. Groundwater. That's how we can.
Right, anything else on that? With HRT, homelessness response team, I met with, Kristen Joler on Monday. This is part of a main care program. I gave you guys all a flyer. So pretty much it's a response team that helps homeless people. We could hand out these flyers to our general assistance recipients or have on hand with the fire station and the police station. They're working with Kennebec and Somerset with outreach, like they'll go out and find these people to help them. Maine State Housing, I think, is working with them as well. It's based on need. They have to be recipients of main care, so they have to be on the main care system. But I think it's a good thing. It's a newer program. Again, it would just be having a flyer to hear his help or have the police station, call them and that they will go help the individual. So she approached Oakland. I actually graduated with her. So we caught up there. But I think it's a good thing if we just wanna accept this flyer and have another
resource.
just another resource.
Let's see where it's even the council issue.
Yeah. Do it.
I don't see any phone number on here for anybody to call
Um,
on this particular flyer.
yeah, not on this one. She said if we all agree and bring us to Oakland and whatever, there'll be different media stuff that she'll have for us.
So all they want us to do, all she wants us to do is to make this type of.
It's have it readily available.
Without underserved.
Anybody comes through Oakland that's homeless that needs help, yeah. Yeah. Great.
Anything else?
Oh. Okay.
Oh, you do everything else tonight?
Yes, I do. I had a request from, family out on, McGraw Pond Road wanting to know if they could have some turtle crossing signs put up. Cause it's snapping turtle breeding time and every year they're hit and killed on the road. And they requested them by Pleasant Point and then down on the corner by Danny Sweat's. I told them I would ask.
Turtle crossing.
A caution turtle crossing.
They have them on the Belgrade Road and I have. It's with it's true, there's a lot of turtles that get smoke right there.
Yeah.
So by Pleasant Point.
Pleasant Point Park, she said they get killed there a lot and they get killed on the corner by Danny Sweat's house.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have Jeff order them.
Thank you.
Culvert. Dave, anything else?
What's that?
Culvert.
Crawl under.
Give them their own branch.
I have a big culvert by my house and they crawl over it. No, I don't have anything else.
Is there anything in the paving plan for the state that you've heard or ours for Olivia Hill? Perfect, wants to know what I'm talking about. Between Pond Road and Gallagher. Road. Right, that's the state road.
Yeah, let's see, I'll bring him.
They have that plan listed online. We'll see what it is, because I don't, I marked that one day.
So. I think guys are on the water pools, so bad on the side.
Pond Road wasn't a lot long.
It's that section of Libby Hill, I don't like B to the top of the hill is terrible.
Halfway up the gentleman couldn't get out of the it's like a big lip block there and go. Couldn't, you know, or he I ended up calling you a key and they can not keep it one. It's not a good.
Mr. Rhoda stole my seat. I come home, get off, but. It's a, come down Louis Hill, it is, yeah, next time. Next time somebody's talking to DOT about.
Hey, the Russo. See, I get it.
When I run into one of them, I call them. But it is awful. People keep asking about the water trickles down halfway down the hill there.
And my Schwartzville house.
But we learned a year or two ago that that's just a natural spring.
Yeah.
And the state says it will cost a gazillion dollars to fix it. So they just go to let it.
So that water that's coming up through the crack in the road is not from the water line, it's from the spring.
Just
From a natural
goes
spring.
right under.
That's what we were told.
I know they have a water problem because that lady that lives in the house on the left called the town a couple of years ago because the neighbor's water was flooding their garage. Springs all through that hill.
Have you noticed it's moved, right? So I mentioned that today in our staff meeting. And Jeff Hall was like, yeah, it's moved over to the edge of the road rather than the middle of the road. And he was explaining that they put a bunch of dye, in that area to see if it would come out into Mesalonsky Stream, and it never did. So they don't know where that water's going. Where it's going. They think it's running down through some ledge and then just going where, so. I think the state's afraid to try to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't work. Can't be work. That's all I have.
Kelly.
Motion to adjourn?
Mike,
Second?
Oh.
Dave, all right, it's real quick. One, is there any action taken on doing support the grant application with San Waters?
So,
Do a letter up?
We go, I just didn't know if the council actually took a stand,
no, we didn't take action on that.
we didn't really, so we should. But we want
We need a motion.
San Waters.
Make a motion that each department head writes a letter in support of the congressional.
Second. Motion made, second, all in favor?
Okay, thank you. And also, the small, is something, $200 from Harbor Freight. That's, acceptance of that, so we can just spend some money in the store, basically.
I make a motion, we accept that $200.
Seconded by Kelly, all in favor?
That's it. Sorry to interrupt you. Sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, thank you. And second. Dave, all in favor? Thank you, folks, have a great night.
It's fine.